So today we wanted to hop on and have a little bit of a chat about the concept of conditioning and what me and Leanne have been talking about recently, and it's something that I've always found really fascinating being a human design and astrology reader is reading for people in a later life, like often when they get to like 40s, 50s, 60s, is a very, very different experience to reading for people when they're a bit younger. So one thing that's always really stood out to me is that like things like in human design with your strategy and authority, you have a unique way that you're uniquely designed to exchange energy with the world around you, and a unique way that you're designed to make decisions. And when I'm reading for those people in later life, what's interesting is they've kind of figured it out without the languaging around it, right? But the system then gives them the language and cognitive understanding of that thing to then enhance it, to lead into it, to make it bigger. And we've kind of been a bit discussing because so Leanne, who I'm sure we'll go into a lot more detail, has done unschooling, and it's been a big part of her life for the last 15 years. And it's quite interesting because the big thing about human design is all about conditioning. That's what the theory with human design is, that you at your core are have everything you need in order to thrive, but it's our conditioning that gets us in the way and blocks us from being able to express that part of us. It gets in the way and it stops us from being able to exchange energy with the world around us in a way that's the most beneficial. And we pick up conditioning from school, from society, from our life experiences, from our families, and so many other places. And we were talking a little bit about the similarities of like unschooling as a concept, and how that is almost like deconditioning in reverse, if that makes sense. So in like often when you read for people in those kind of middle later years, they kind of have started to get a feel for this, and they've started the deconditioning process. They've started to come back to themselves. It's the same in astrology. When you start your life often as a rising sign, and that's almost like a mask that you wear to the world, and you grow into your sun sign, and it's all about becoming the fullest expression. And I always notice that in people as well when they get to like their 40s and 50s, and suddenly they just don't really care anymore, and all those fears and all those insecurities you had when you were younger, they start to melt away. But yeah, like unschooling, we've been talking a lot about that recently, and how it is that kind of deconditioning process in reverse. So, Leanne, I'd really love to hear you kind of talk about your thoughts on that and your experience with unschooling, and how that has informed the work that we do as well massively.
Yeah, so unschooling, it's basically a concept that is that there's no need for formal education. So as children, we know we are naturally curious. We want to learn. As adults, we are like this also. And with our system as it is, what we tend to do is shut down our curiosity because the education system tends to um, tell rather than allow you to explore. You know, you're told what to learn, how to learn it, whether you're good or bad at things, whether you're intelligent or not. So that there's many things within the system that actually confuses us. That the messages that come from these are that someone else is the authority, that there's something else that measures you, that tells you what is important in life, how you should be. And my partner and I had our daughter 15 years ago, and when it came to school time, initially I always had this feeling of I don't want to just go into this system because I had her when I was almost 45, and watching a generation grow up, and it really made me ask so many questions about why do we do this, and seeing that there seemed to be more and more stress in the system, and then these problems in teenage years of having to grapple back and find yourself. So there are so many things that are questioned, and then when I was doing the research on, okay, what do we do? Where do we go? Because I always thought that homeschooling meant you sit at home with your child and you teach them, the subjects. And I didn't feel qualified to do that, nor did I want to do that, nor did I think it was healthy. And I stumbled across unschooling and found this whole world where, people just carried on with life. So there was no point where you suddenly went to nursery and went to school and started to learn to read and basically handed over the education of your child to somebody else. And it made so much sense to me. And so what we did is we created a community. So reached out, found the people that were thinking along the same lines. And we weren't all exactly the same, but more or less had this concept of trust your children, trust that we don't need to force them to read and write at a certain age, start measuring them, pushing them forward, and just let them grow and wander and follow their passions. And it's been absolutely amazing watching. And now there's quite a strong community of young people ranging from 13 to 17 that have grown up together. And what I see is very, very different personalities and characters, and a group of people that aren't in competition together, and actually they're very rooted in themselves, that they don't get off, swayed by the herd as easily. And so the whole method is that you trust the child. And it's been a really interesting process because obviously I wasn't raised like that. I went into the school system. And so there have been many moments when my conditioning has come up and the fears, because what I realized is as soon as you have a child, it's almost like a race through life. It's like, right, getting to the next stage and the next stage and the next stage. We get them sleeping on their own, get them potty trained, get them into school, get them reading, get them writing. And it's been so wonderful just not to have any of that and let things evolve as they evolve, and seeing that when you keep putting your trust in someone. And I think this is the basis of coaching, and it's the basis of what human design teaches, that you put, as a reader or as a coach, you're handing it back. You're going, you've got the gifts. You do know what's best for you. Experiment with this. Try this now. And basically it feels like you're almost coming back to how you started before the conditioning happened, before the messages from society, which are mostly say, you don't know really what is good for you. We have to go out and find it and be taught it. You don't know, even sometimes when you want to go to the toilet, when you want to sleep, right from the beginning, a newborn, like the whole approach that we took was, well, she'll sleep when she wants to and she'll wake up when she wants to. I didn't want to get her into a rhythm, because from what I knew about the brain, it's like, why would I want to condition a rhythm? And I must admit, I had the luxury of doing that at the time. I could be with my baby and go on this adventure. And of course, there's life as well. And I had some friends that had to get into a rhythm because there were certain things they needed to do. However, as time went on and as it developed, we developed more and more of a community that supported each other, getting back to this old way of living where there were people within the group that were still working and could unschool their children because there was a supportive community. So moving away from this idea that we have to outsource anything, educating our children or our health. And certainly there are experts in their field, and you would go and you would learn from people and you'd listen and you'd create a rich environment by understanding other people's gifts. But really coming back to, how do you feel about that? What feels right for you? And what I've witnessed, well, with our daughters, taught herself to read, taught herself to write. It was a case of keep the environment rich, keep reading. At some point, she will just do it. She did, and all these. There were moments of, am I doing the right thing? Will this ever happen? just watching this person evolve in a way that life is a pleasure, and why would I not want to learn, and why would I not want just to enjoy my gifts? And there were moments where I could really see the conditioning coming in. Like there's a story that I've often told when I was watching her dance one day, and she was just dancing for the pleasure of moving the body, just like all children do when they start to move and explore. And then it's when comments come from adults, oh, good, well done, do that again for me, or you're good at that, that you can really see this from this pleasure of just exploring. And instead of going, oh, I love dancing, I can see you love dancing, shall we dance? Or, oh, I love that picture that you've painted. It's more like, that's good. And we do it from the best place. And that's the real difference between unschooling and then kind of shaping somebody, that you can see then that people start to do things in order to get the right response from people. And that's what we do. And that's where our conditionings come in. And there's so much to say about this subject, and I'm sure we can have other conversations, but just from that simple explanation, what I find in human design, from what I understand, and obviously you can elaborate more on this, is there's a richness in your uniqueness, and if you own it as yours and then begin to experiment, that's where all those riches come in, and that's where that flow comes in of your natural curiosity and enjoyment of life.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's such a good point. And I think that's really what human design gives you, is it helps you to understand that you are really unique, and actually some people are designed to have a really consistent rhythm in life. Others are designed to be a lot more receptive and inconsistent. Some people thrive in structure, others need fluidity. Some people will be energized and on sometimes, and then sometimes they'll be horizontal. So there's a lot of like variables within everybody, right? There's so many layers, and we're so rich and deeply complex. And I think that's what was so interesting to me about unschooling, because really what that environment was a container for that exploration. And without those, get up at this time, be somewhere by this time, learn this and this, but more of a self-led building that trust with your authority. And I think a lot of the conversations we've been having as well as over the last few years is kind of, and with our coaching practice as well, is getting people to become the authority of their own life again, and kind of reclaiming that authority. And so often, I know both of us see in our work, is like people kind of searching outside of themselves for the answers and for the thing to do, and for like life to tell them what to do next. But actually, you do have this wonderful mechanism within you that can help you make those decisions, that can help you build that self-trust. And it's so interesting watching unschooling be the reverse of that.
Yeah. And I think what I've noticed as well in coaching very often, that even when you're in a position of being able to choose, or you have the freedom, we've got that strict parent in our heads, or the teacher, or the rules of society telling us, but I shouldn't be doing this and I should be doing this. And it's a really interesting thing to play with, to go, there's no rules. There are no rules. And I know that is one of the basic, unschooling. It's not a great phrase, but that it simply means that it's deconditioning. That's what I think. It's just like, get out of all those. There's unworking, as in whoever's working for you, tell them what the job is. Trust they'll do it in their time. That they know what to do. Give them the responsibility. They will make really good choices. And actually, I know there are some businesses that are following that model really, really successfully. And so it's the same within a family. It's like, I am here. I have more experience than you because I've been on this planet longer. However, let's keep a conversation open, but I'm not going to put strict rules. We'll have principles, as in, which I think are already there: kindness, compassion, respect. Keep a conversation open. But there's no point of going, you're not doing this, you can't do this. I mean, obviously, as a parent, there's certain things. If the child's in danger, you're there to step in. But rather than, decide their diet, decide when they go to sleep, decide, what they do with their time, it's that's not our business. I really believe that our business is to support. And when you remove this outside of the parenting relationship, that's with each other. A lot of our conditioning is to control, to not trust. And I truly believe when we get into that flow, we can trust each other. We don't have to keep an eye on each other and make sure things are happening. Sure, we've built up a society at the moment where if we suddenly dropped all the rules, there would be chaos because, and I really, really think that's why when we get to this thing of old teenagers and they go off the rails and they're making bad decisions because suddenly they've gone from this institutionalized way of living every single day of rules, 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 rules. When those rules go, how are you meant to make good decisions? How are you meant to know? Because you've never really suffered the consequence of making a bad decision.
Yeah.
And again, because this isn't, we're not particularly picking out. I'm sure people have got a lot of questions just
Yeah,
listening to
of
this, and
course.
I'd love to take it further because I had a lot of questions, and it's been amazing living it and watching that you can trust. You don't have to put the hard and fast rules, but you can have discussion. I have a boundary. It doesn't mean I can, I'm just there and I'm handling it, that there are certain things that's not okay for me. This is my boundary. Model it. For me, my practice has always been important, and I really believe that if I model that, then she will look after herself, and she actually does.
Mm.
And it's because what we often do as parents or people in authority, and we can see this in our governments, and we say the right thing, we tell you what to do, we don't do it ourselves. If you want to pass on self-care and respect, show it, do it, model it. And I think human design does that beautifully.
Mm.
You're saying, this is me. Wow, I've got this unique map inside me, and only I can offer the world this, and only I can own it. And I almost like to see it as it's our birthright to get beneath the conditioning now and get those gifts. Because the other thing our systems often do is dumb you down, keep it quiet. And that I found interesting as well. There'll be a point where we're all, you know, clapping and cheering a child there, dancing and singing, and then it becomes to an age, stop showing off.
Mm.
And it's like this whole thing that gets to a certain time and everything changes, or it's time to grow up now. Stop. And actually, if we're just left and there isn't this, I'm judging or I'm deciding what you're good or what you should be doing or shouldn't be doing. Celebrate the gifts together, enjoy them. Because I've heard that many people go, no, I like praising my child, and it's not praise as such, it's how it's done. I love watching you swim. I love watching you dance. It's very different from you're really good at that, and then wanting to develop the skill, but also this modesty. So that there's so many conflicting messages in our culture that we're supposed to be modest, and modesty, and particularly for women, modesty throughout the ages has been something that completely keeps you, nice and quiet and doing the right thing. And I think more so, for everybody in our culture, that um, on one hand, you're pushed to be the best, and on the other hand, don't get above your station. And it's confusing. Let's celebrate our gifts. Let's trust each other that we're able to um, enjoy everybody because we've got ours that are completely unique. And also share your gifts, see it as a way to be generous, see it as something that's needed in the world, not something that you lord over, and there are many reasons why we end up either abusing our gifts or never getting them out in the first place. But the human, from what I understand, the message of human design is it's it's what your offering is to the world. So why would you not give it? Why would you not experience it fully in this lifetime and see where it goes?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. And I think it's also that sense of almost like a little bit as well, like responsibility, like you actually have something to contribute here. And the whole theory with human design is individual power to be part of a collective. Is like when we all play our part, we all fit better together. And when we step into our power, when we step into our unique contribution, flow and live in the way of life that feels good. And I think that's also a really key point because if it feels good and if you find yourself going there, if you find yourself working at 3 o'clock in the morning because it feels right, even though everybody tells you you should have a certain bedtime routine, like maybe you could just play around with listening to that. How does it feel? Like, kind of giving again, it's coming back to that being your own authority. But it's like that's what I found with human design is it was a confirmation of what I knew already, but I was telling myself was wrong or bad. And I was trying to fit myself into this box of what a good functional grown-up was expected to be. And that's what human design gives you is the permission slip. And also, I guess, just to kind of like bring this full circle as well, if anybody wants to, obviously, what we've spoken about there is like unschooling and the benefits, but like, most of our listeners are probably my age, your age, kind of, we've already had the conditioning. So I guess, just quickly to wrap up, could you kind of give us a little bit of like an action plan of what people could do? So obviously, maybe like having a look at their human design and then working with somatics to kind of get into the body and actually start to listen to that inner voice and pay attention. But I'd love to hear that from you. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's keeping the questioning open. It's like we make a lot of assumptions. When you find yourself making assumptions, question them. I often in coaching sessions will find that the suggestion is take the rules off, just take them off, see what happens. If you have a human design reading, then you've got something straight away, your strategy and authority just to play with that. So I certainly, and you can download your chart from our website, have a reading with you. And it's finding your tribe as well. I really like if I think about the journey of unschooling and doing something completely outside of what is the norm. And when we begin to really explore ourselves within our lives, it will be out of the norm. There'll be people that know you the way you are. You know, who do you think you are doing that? They'll feel a little bit uncomfortable with you being a different way. Um, and I would say find your tribe. You can check out our membership as well. It's a place where we really want people to come experiment, to share what is going on, to find the right coaching and support and accountability to really dive in, because you will make mistakes. You'll find yourself going up a road where it's just like, oh no, okay, this isn't right. As you come back to having a practice where you listen to yourself, where you trust yourself, when you've got the right knowledge that there are certain things that you can then step out and experiment with, process. And I would definitely say, if it's enjoyable, keep doing it. Because often what we then do is see ourselves as something to be fixed. There's nothing to be fixed.
Mhm.
If you think about all you're doing is going back to this core self and this way of being that feels really natural and it's all there for you. If you get to the point that you're looking at what needs to be fixed, then you're going down that road of willpower and looking at what's wrong. And as soon as we do that, we're on a downward spiral. So I'd say start from where you are, enjoy what's there, question your assumptions, and just begin to play with it.
Mhm.
And see what happens. We've got plenty on our YouTube channel as well if you want to check out ways of sort of stepping a little deeper, working with somatic practices or other ideas and viewpoints of how to look at things. So everything's there as well for free on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, I'll leave some links to some nice practices below as well, where you can start to
Yeah.
drop into the body, start to pay attention to that inner voice. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us, everybody, and we will see you again very, very soon. Please like, subscribe, share if you found this useful. It really helps us out. And we'll see you in the next video.
Yeah, and if you've got any questions or anything you'd like to go into deeper, then do so. The whole point of these conversations for us is to let people into how we really work with this, of where the foundations come from. As we bring the tools in, it's like, well, where does this all come from, and what's just going deeper underneath the layers to what a handpicked life is all about. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Bye.